Welcome to Manchester Midi School. Today's our open day, and we thought we'd stream one of the seminars. What we're going to be doing during this about an hour and a half is I've downloaded some stems. Well, it's not technically Beatport, but it's a Beatport-style remix competition. Never seen these stems before, and we're going to see if we can knock a remix together. So, like I said in the blurb preceding this video, remix competitions run by Beatport and such like, they're a really good way of getting your name out there. It's a good way to practice your production skill. Is it still streaming? Okay, just bear me 2 seconds. So what we need to do first is get all these playing in time before we can actually start to pick bits out that we want to use. So let me see if I can sort this stream out. Cool. Don't know. Who knows? Technology, it's a wonderful thing when it works. If in doubt, turn it off, turn it on again. So, for those of you that don't know, a stem is like one instrument taken from a piece of music. So, when you get commissioned to do a remix or when you download a pack like this, you'll have the full piece of music but split up into its constituent instruments. So, for example, the first track there is the bass. BVs, they're backing vocals, we've got drums, guitar, so on and so forth. Now, chances are I'm not going to use most of those, but I'm going to listen through and just see if there's anything that I want to, to pluck out and base my remix around. So, by show of hands, who's used Ableton Live before? Right, okay. Who has done any sort of music production before? And who's never done anything? And this is all brand new and wizardry and witchcraft. Right. Okay, so Ableton Live allows you to take a bit of audio.
In my hotel room, sounds from next door, someone's getting laid. God's name's proclaimed.
Right, I don't want to play too much of that in case I get in trouble, but we've just got to get it in time. So, I'll just solo the drums. Cool, so it's written at 124 beats per minute. So I'm going to slow it down a little bit, I think. Next I'm going to solo each of the parts, and let's just listen to see if there's anything usable in there. So now I've got it all synced up. I can turn the metronome off because it's horribly annoying. Yeah, can you just give a wee bit of volume? Cool, alright, so I like that bass. I'm going to keep that in there for now. Backing vocals, let's just have a listen to them. No, a bit shouty for my liking, so we're going to get rid of that. Just get rid of them altogether. Drums, I'm going to get rid of straight away because I always like to write my own drums when I'm remixing. It's the first point at which you can, stamp your own personality on a track, so I always write my own drums. Guitar, let's have a listen and see what that's doing. If anyone's interested in making money, Tony Rigg will be starting his... So I'm going to keep both the guitars. Thanks, Tony. I'm going to keep both the guitars because there's something I'll be able to use out of those. In fact, there's 3 guitars. Let's have a listen to see what that third one's doing. Now, a bit rocky that, so we can get rid of that. You can see I'm being really quite militant about it. Nope, not having that. Let's have a look. What we got here? Lead vocals.
Some spirit.
I'm going to keep that just because I might not use it as it is, but I might pick bits out, chop it up. I'm really into my deep house at the moment, and they do that thing where they take a vocal, pitch it down, chop it up, and just really nice effect. So I might do something like that with the vocal. Nearly there. Synths. Now I don't like the sound, but the pattern's okay. Now what I can do with live is analyse that audio, pick out the notes that have been played and assign a new instrument to it. So I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute as well. So that's synth 1. Synth 2. Oh yeah, now you're talking. That's my kind of sound. Sounds like it's from Blade Runner. Guys, I don't suppose you could just shut the door, could we? Brilliant. Thanks. No, there's going to be no place for trumpet in this. Right, so let's get rid of that track. So we're left with 6 tracks. Let's just have a listen to hear what we're left with.
2 shots more to...
Cool, so let's start picking bits out. I'm just going to rename the tracks. Just, it might seem like a bit of a moot point, but it makes a huge difference with the workflow if you are doing what I'm about to do, which is start transferring stuff over into the other view that Live has to allow me to sketch out ideas before bringing them back into this arrangement view, which is where you lay out your track. Cool. So that's just a repeating 4-note pattern. So I can take any of those, what is it, it's over 4 bars. So let me just pick that 4-bar section there. Now what I'm going to do is get hold of that, hit tab, and drop it into session view. But I've forgotten to do one thing, which is turn warp back on so that they will now play at whatever tempo I would care to set for them. So we're at 124 at the moment. If I will choose to, I can slow that down to whatever I want it to be. So let's go for something around 115. I've got a nice little 4-bar loop now of that bass. I'm just going to give that a little tweak. First of all, it's been played in live, so there's going to be a bit of human error in there, and I can tidy that up. In terms of timing, so let's just, it's just a little bit tighter now, it's just a little bit tighter, so it'll arguably work better with other stuff that I'm going to throw in there. So what I'm going to do with that bass, let me just copy it a few times and let me just change the position of the loop. So rather than have it looping over 4 bars, let me just have it looping over 1 bar. Let's try half a bar. Cool, so I'm happy with that. I'm just going to leave that rolling for the time being. Let's see what else we can pick out. No, decided I don't like that guitar. That's cool. I'm just going to get that, transfer it into the other view, drop it in there, loop it, give it a little gain boost. So now we've got 2 things rolling. Cool, so I'm just going to do that with a couple more things and then we'll start adding our own stuff to it. So let's just have a listen to this synth that I really like. Cool, so I'm going to get, let's say 16 bars of that, and I'm going to stick it in the session view. We'll come back to that synth in a minute. So, let me just mute everything in this view. Let me come back over to session view. So we looked, we started off in the arrangement view because obviously the song, the original, has already been arranged. So we load the stems into that. We prepare the stems so that we can listen back to them as they were recorded at the original tempo, just make sure they're all playing in time with one another. Once we've done that, we can then start to cherry pick out bits that we want to use. So the end result of that is we've got some bass, we've got a nice synth, we've got some guitar. Cool. So I'm just going to stop that, I'm going to stop that. Let me add a filter to the bass. Generally speaking, a filter is the first effect that I'll jump on. Just, I don't know, it's such a simple effect, but it's got such a drastic you can really cut into a sound, shape it, and you can just see where that sound might go throughout the course of a track. Let's now add some drums to that. So I'm just going to make a new MIDI track. Drums, there we go. And let's go for, so I'm just going to load now one of Ableton Live's drum racks. So these all come with the software out of the box. You can see there's some classic drum machines in there, like, oh my word, who makes that? I've completely forgotten, it just left me. But there's the Lin drum. To buy one of those will cost you about £2,000 if you get the hardware version. There's the Oberheim DMX. That was used on like Blue Monday. You've got obviously 909, 808, world's most famous drum machines. They're about £2,000 each to buy them. So the point I'm trying to make is you've got, thousands and thousands of pounds worth of drum machines inside your computer. Access to those straight away just by dragging and dropping your chosen kit. So let's go for solid. Let's go for a classic 808 drum kit. So I'm just going to load that on there. You see down here I've got 16 sounds to play with. I can just trigger using the keyboard, or if I'm lazy I can just program them in using the mouse. So let's get a drum loop going. Kick drum on each beat of the bar, snare or a clap on the second and the fourth beat of the bar, and we'll go for a closed hat on what's called the off beat. So I've just written very quickly a really simple house beat there. Let's see how that sounds. So again, when you're sketching out ideas with live, it just keeps everything in time. It quantizes when stuff is launched like that. And you can see it waits until the downbeat of the bar before it'll trigger that sample. And again, if I go for a different bass clip, it'll keep everything quantized for me. Cool, so with the drum rack I get a few different controls to play around with. If I just select the kick drum, I can choose how long the kick drum is. Can't really hear it that clearly through these monitors, but the kick's got a really long decay on it. It's got a long tail which I want to cut down a little bit, so I can do that using decay. Here, that kick's got a lot more body to it. That's a lot shorter and tighter. We can do things like add a bit of compression. We can cut the top end off it, so if it's a little bit poking through in the mix a little bit too much, we can just cut the top end off. So live drum racks give you these macro controls so you can quickly go in and shape you know, some of the main facets of the sound quickly. It gives you a good idea how it's going to sound. Just trying to get that in tune with the bass that I've got playing. Let's just go to the clap, just add a bit of compression to that. Hi-hat. I've decided actually that I prefer an open hi-hat, so because MIDI is MIDI, I can just at any point pitch that note up or down so it'll play a different sample for me. So let's go for an open hat. Yeah, so it's just got a little bit, again, a bit more decay on it, but we can go in and we can adjust that decay down here. Bit of compression on that. Turn it down a bit. Cool. So I'm happy with that basic beat. I'd like to flesh that out now with some percussion. I'm just going to be really lazy, just grab myself some sort of audio sample, drop that in. And again, because Ableton Live is Ableton Live, it should just sync that up for me straight away with everything else that's going on. So create a new track. Let's just call that loops. Let's just colour it yellow so that we know it's a drum. VEH1 loops. Let's have a look, see what we've got in here. So we've got house beats, we've got house loops. I'm going to go for house loops because generally they don't have as much bottom end on them. So we've just got these, you know, these short little 1-2 bar loops that, you know, someone in a studio has put together for our benefit, and they're just great for adding a bit of texture to, you know, I've written my drums, they're the main backbone. I'm just going to add a bit of texture to that with loops rather than using the loop as like the, you know, the main focus. I tend to just use it as a bit of texture. So if you want to hear that playing at the same tempo as your live set, you just have something running, and then when you audition that, notice it'll snap to that tempo for you. Drums are just a little bit loud, causing the master fader to go into the red a little bit, so I'm just going to pull that down. Just pull the audition volume down. That's alright, so I'll just drag and drop that in there. Yeah, now we're talking, that'll do. Right, let's get that in there. So again, it's not the main event, it's just, you know, filling out those middle sort of frequencies. Sorry, Nick, just a bit more volume in the room. Cheers. So that's before, that's after. Just makes it sound a little bit more done, finished. Cool. Right. So we need another element in there now from the actual track. Let's go for some vocals. I'm just going to grab.
Only more tequila, parade in my hotel room. Sounds from next door.
That'll do. Just get hold of that because I'm not actually using it. Like I said before, I'm not going to use it in its entirety. I just want to pull a bit out so that I could do something sort of clever with it. So I'm just going to crop that. Let me just loop that.
In my hotel room, sounds from next door. Someone's getting late.
Cool. Right. So there's obviously infinite number of things that I can do with that. I'm just going to show you a couple of things that you can do with this vocal. Just right click on it, you get the option to slice it up to a new MIDI track. So I'm just going to select that option. I'm just going to click on OK. So you've seen this thing before. We've just written some drums using that. The drum rack itself is basically a big bank of slots, and you can drop samples onto that, you can drop instruments onto that, and just trigger the different slots using a MIDI note. So there's 128 different slots on a drum rack, so you can have up to 128 different sounds loaded in there. So it's a really powerful device. If you load drum samples onto it, it becomes a drum machine. You know, if you load So what it's done, when I go slice to new MIDI track, is it analyses where these things are located here. These are called transient markers, and every time it comes across a transient marker, so from there to there, that becomes one slice. From there to there, that becomes another slice, and so on and so forth. What you get provided with is a MIDI clip, which will trigger those slices sequentially.
In my hotel room, sounds from next door, someone's getting late.
And you can hear that it sort of plays the vocal back as it was recorded. But that's no fun. What we need to do is just create ourselves a new clip. I'm just going to lean on the keyboard and see what I can come up with. Okay, so I'm not overly keen on that. Let's start another one. That's not great either. I'll go back to that one. What we can do is just start moving those slices around. Just click them, just move them around with the arrow keys. Okay, so that's sort of getting there. What I can do to that is add some effects just so it's not quite as dry. So let's go for some reverb and delay. And you can see that automatically for you, you get a reverb and delay effect created when you start a new project with Live. And it's just a workflow thing. It allows you to quickly chuck some reverb delay on, just to see how it's going to sound. So this is reverb. And this is delay. So one's like an echo, and one just sits the sound in like an artificial ambient environment. So the reverb, the main controls on a reverb are the size of the room, and the time it takes for the reverb tail to die away. There's reverb on everything. In this room there's reverb, so you'll be hearing my voice directly, but you'll also be hearing reflections coming off every surface. If you're just making music in the computer, there's no reverb on there, on a synthesizer. You need to add that artificially using reverb devices. Delay. Just put some delay on it. So the main controls with the delay is feedback, the amount of repetitions you hear. So obviously 95%, you'll hear loads of them. Round towards 20%, you won't hear that many. And the number is how fast or slow the repetitions are. Yeah, so those are the two effects that I'm going to add just to give a little bit of context to that vocal. And let's go for another filter as well on it. I just want to show you another little effect that I quite like using just to add a bit of randomness and variation in there. This is called a beat repeat. So if I just turn it off, this is what we had originally. If I just turn that on, you can hear it's chopping into the sound a little bit. So it just makes it a little bit more random. Okay, so that vocal isn't quite there just yet, but I'm going to come back to it. I want to start adding some more stuff. So let me go back to that synth that we've up until now ignored. Cool, let me just take that little bit there. So hit tab, synth 1, and now I can just get rid of, or just mute for the time being anyway, the rest of that clip. Cool, so what I'm going to do with that is what I mentioned before. Just let me crop it first, so we're just left with the bit that I want to use. We've got 3 other options just down here below the slice to new MIDI track. So the slice to new MIDI track, you can see it just arbitrarily slices up the sample, creates lots of little audio slices for you, and then you can trigger those audio slices using a keyboard or just program stuff in using the mouse. You've got 3 options new since Live 9, and these allow you to, rather than doing that, pick out the note information from a piece of audio, and then you can just assign a new instrument to that. So it's really powerful. Practical applications of that. If you are not that good on the keyboard, for example, you can just hum something into your computer. If you've not got a background in music theory, but you've got melodies in your head, you can just hum something into your computer, and then you can use one of these methods to pull out the note information from that and assign a synthesizer to play it. So it just opens up a world of possibilities for those that maybe aren't that proficient musically. So, 3 options. Convert drums to new MIDI track. If you drop a drum loop in there, as I did, an audio drum loop, you can pull out the note information from that And you know, if you like the groove of a sample, for example, but you don't like the sounds that it's playing, you can pick out that groove using that and just assign different sounds to in a drum rack, for example. Melody, convert melody to new MIDI track. That's for what's called monophonic material. So if it's just a one-note bass line like that, you know, one finger at a time. Harmony, convert harmony to new MIDI track. That's polyphonic material. So that's like chords, you know, where you've got more than one note playing at a time. So in this case, let's just solo the clip. So it is one note at a time, but do you know what? I'm going to try both harmony and, all good, harmony and melody as well, just to see which one comes out best. So it's not infallible, but it'll get you, you know, part of the way there, and then you can just give it a tweak and assign an instrument to it. So this is melody, convert melody to new MIDI track. Let's see how it's done. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Let me just do that again. Let me do it for harmony. Let's see what happens here. So you can hear there's a couple of dodgy notes in there, but so in this case, I'm just going to go for the melody to new MIDI track rather than the harmony. You hear that when there's a lot of reverb on delay, reverb and or delay on a sample, it can confuse live a little bit, and there's a few bum notes in there. If I had more time, I'd probably actually use that one because it can add some interesting notes that weren't present in the original but actually work. So anyway, let's just get rid of that track. So again, because it's MIDI, there is an instrument assigned to that clip at the moment, assigned to that track. But it's pretty rubbish, so I can just delete that, get rid of it, and then we can assign, you know, any other instrument to that. So we can load one of Ableton Live's sounds, instrument presets. I'm actually going to go for plugins. Now this is anything that you've purchased extra and installed on your computer. For example, at school we're running Native Instruments Complete. So I've got loads of, you know, really ace Native Instruments stuff to play around with. So I'm going to pick something out of there. Let's have a look. Let's go with Old Reliable. Let's go with Massive. Just drag and drop that on there. Just remembered I haven't saved it yet, so there we go. Right, let me just save it before it crashes. Not that it ever crashes, but it would just be my luck. Cool, right, so we're saved. So I just need to pick a nice sound to go with that MIDI clip that I've got. Go for Polylead. Let's just double click. I've no idea what this is going to sound like, so let's just. Yeah, that's quite nice. Cool. So we've got a few things now. Let's just have a play around to see what these sound like together. So we might start with that. Let me just make another drum beat that is just the kick drum. Bit of reverb on that. Cool, so we're getting there. We're getting there. Anybody got any questions up to now? So I've just realised I've been talking non-stop for 45 minutes. No? Cool. Right, rather than that sort of major feel, happy feel, which it's got at the moment, I'm going to try and make it, you give it a little bit more of a serious minor feel. So I'm just going to change a couple of notes. Now the timing on that is quite loose, and I quite like that, but it's maybe a little bit too loose, so we can just tidy that up a little bit. Cool, so that's just a little bit tighter. See how that sits with the bass now. Right, I'm a lot happy with that. I much prefer working in a minor key to a major key. There's very little music that's written for the dance floor that's written in a major key. Generally, stuff that's minor works a lot better. So, at this stage, just so I can see where things are going, I'm just going to add a couple of compressors. I'm going to do a little bit of sidechain compression on the bass and that synth that I've added. And you'll see what I mean by sidechain compression in a minute. So it's making the bass pump up and down in time to the kick. If I just turn that off. And back on, you hear it just makes the kick seem a little bit more bombastic. The kick gets more chance to punch through. So let me just copy that across to the synth that I've got over here. So that's before. that's after. You hear the synth is just pumping up and down just a little bit in time to the kick drum. Cool, right, we're getting there, we're getting there. Let me see what this guitar is saying, I can't remember that. Just going to tighten that up a little bit. Let's add a cool effect to that. Let's go for... Where are we? Let's go for a phaser. Not really doing what I was after. Go for something a little bit more severe. So what I've just dropped on there is something called a Redux. It just is a device that degrades the audio quality on purpose just to give you a specific flavour. So that's downsampling. There's also a bit crusher built into it. Let's just add a bit of reverb and delay to that. I'm going to copy that compressor across as well, just so it squashes it down in the same way as as the kick drum squashing the bass and the other synth that we've got there. Let me just develop these drums a little bit. I'm going to add an extra sound. Classic 808 rim shot sound. Now this lower section down here allows me to program different velocities. Now velocity is how hard a note is hit, how hard a MIDI note is played. So you notice you've got dark red colours to indicate something's been hit really hard, and that sort of faded red, pink to indicate a softer velocity. Now velocity, generally speaking, by default equals volume, which it does in this case. You can hear as I pull that down quieter, push it up, it's louder. But velocity can control a number of other parameters, like, for example, the cutoff on a filter, the pitch of a sound, that sort of thing. But anyway, I'm going to program for my rim shot something that looks a little bit like that. So we've got high, low, mid, low. And that'll give it more of a rolling feel rather than a machine gun fire feel. I'll show you what I mean. Let me just copy that across. I'll just sew like that. It's got like a pulsing feel, as if someone's playing it on a hi-hat, rather than that, which is like Woody Woodpecker. So it just breathes a bit of life into it. Right, so I've not added any of my own original stuff yet, really. Well, apart from the drums, I've not added my own original melodic content. The bass is just the audio sample that I've pinched out of the stems. We've got the guitar loop in there, which I've just added an effect to. Just tightened it up a bit, made it a bit sharper. The lead synth that we got there, the MIDI was pulled out of, you know, the synth audio stem. So let me just like add something original now. Let's see what sort of sounds Live's got in its arsenal. Now, if you just start typing up here, it'll show you any presets that have got piano in the name. So let's just, I don't know, let's just add a piano, see what happens. It's in B flat minor, which is really hard to play. I was hoping it might be in something like, you know, A minor where there's no black notes, but basically all the black notes are in there. Just something like that. Just a nice little chord. So what's that? That's 2 bars. So by default, when you double click one of these slots to make yourself a new little blank canvas, it's 1 bar. But you can change the length of that down here, so you can make it as long as you want. And in fact, you can just record indefinitely by pressing one of these buttons. It'll just keep recording for you until you tell it to stop. But me personally, I like to define the length first. I just find it a lot easier. Bit of a practice, and then when I'm ready to go, it's that button up there. Cool. Some reverb and delay on that, perhaps. And let's just EQ that a little bit. Let's just chop out some of those frequencies that we don't need, the real bass end. Give it a bit of sparkle at the top there. And what else? Now, there's already a compressor built into it, so now you hear the lower note is just dominating a little bit there, so I can just turn that down a little bit using the velocities. Okay, so those bits there don't really go together, so they're probably going to end up being in different sections of the track. I can just hear one more sound in my head, so I'm just going to make one more track. It's just going to be a really simple, big synth sound. So I'm going to go plugins. Let's see, let's just load another massive, see what that has to offer. Synth lead, let's go mono lead. Oh, I wonder what that sounds like. Let's have a listen. That's quite nice. That's the sort of thing. Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. Yeah, Native Instruments do some cracking, you know, tools for sound design, and if you can afford yourself a copy complete, I very much recommend it. Right. It's not quite fitting how I wanted it to, so oh, huge lead. Let's try that. Oh no, it's a bit too much. Obviously, if you had the time, you'd maybe create yourself a patch from scratch, or you'd, you know, find a patch that was near enough and give it a bit of a tweak. But because we're on the clock here, quite like that. I was listening to the Blade Runner soundtrack again this morning, Ben. Ben and I are obsessed with Blade Runner and the soundtrack. I really like my, you know, terrible 80s sounds. I can imagine that's making most people's stomach churn, but that to me is just beautiful. Obviously, it's far too loud. Duplicate that track as well. Right. Nearly ready to get an arrangement down. I quite like that. Wow. Cool, right. This is all just a stream of consciousness. I hope it's making some sense. Has anyone got any questions at the moment? No? Cool. I've just copied that track because I'm just going to program a chord. Be really lazy, just draw it in. At the moment it'll sound like this. And what I'm going to do is drop an arpeggiator on there. Now what an arpeggiator does is it turns held notes into a repeating pattern, and it's just another great way of, you know, coming up with ideas. Let's just see how that sounds in the mix. That's pretty cool. Because it's what's called a monophonic patch, it'll only let me play one note at a time. But it's also got this thing called glide on, so rather than defined steps between pitches, it will glide between those pitches, giving it that squeaky sort of feel. And make it sound a bit more mental if you want. That might be quite nice just to have in the background a little bit. You know? One more thing that I'm going to add to that is auto pan. So as well as you being able to, you know, pan individual tracks left and right within the stereo field, just to give the mix a bit of width. What I like to do with the odd element is add this thing called auto pan, which if I take it to the extreme, you can hear it's going left and right between the monitors. Probably wouldn't do it that much, but just a little tickle like that, just to give it a bit of movement. Just add the piano. Okay, so there's too many notes in there. Let's just whiz out some of those. That's better. So that massive that I've just made there, that's sort of like the lead sound, so to speak. That's like going to be the lead riff. Right, nearly arrangement time. Let me just have a tweak of these vocals. What you can do is go into these individual slices and start to play with some of the parameters in there. So and you can, for example, pitch them up, pitch them down. Just changing the vibe of that a little bit. Lost this. Give me 2 seconds, guys. Let's have a look. Okay. Nice. Let's have a quick look. See if it's something at my side. Pass. Not to worry. We'll just use our ears for the rest of it. So you can see, yeah, I've gone into some of those slices. I've just pitched them up and down. They might fit a little bit better now. Yeah, they do. Just fit a little bit better now that I've pitched. Cool. Pitch some of those up and down. Right, new audio track. I'm just going to resample that. I'm just going to resample that craziness. I'm just going to try and get that sort of deep house effect. I quite like that. Let's just see how that sits in the mix. Yeah, I quite like that. And having recorded off 4 bars, I can just choose the bits that I like. See what that sounds like alongside the original. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So, cool. So there's a nice mixture of different bits and pieces in there. Let's see if I can get some sort of structure down. So let's start with the kick drum. And what I'm going to do this, again, if I had more time, I could record this in on the fly if I wanted to. I don't have to just do it by getting these clips and plonking them next door. You can do all this live, hence the name. You can take remote control of everything that's in front of you and you can just record a performance. What I might also do if I had more time is plan out sections of music rather than just getting individual scenes. I could then get a whole, I could plan out scenes of music, so it would be like introduction or first 8 bars, next 8 bars, next 8 bars. So rather than grabbing one clip at a time, I can grab a whole bunch of clips. But because of the time constraints, I'm just going to do it one clip at a time. Just let me get rid of everything that's in the arrangement. This is where it helps if you've labelled everything correctly because you know where to drop things. So I'm getting something from the drums track. Just get hold of that, hit tab, drop it in the drums track, and let's just have 8 bars of the kick drum. First 8 bars is just going to be kick drum. Alongside that, let's start it off with that nice squelchy massive preset as well. So that's the first 8 bars done. The next 8 bars is going to be the exact same massive sound. It's going to be a slightly developed drum loop, which is going to be kick and kick and hat. Let's say kick and hat. So I don't need the clap in that one. So let's see what we've got. Let's see what we've got so far. So generally speaking, the introduction of a DJ-friendly piece of music, crassly generalising, is 32 bars. Let's keep that going. Let's add the guitar in there. So that was in guitar 2. See what the piano sounds like there. And then from bar 33 rather, let's now add some bass. So this is where the preparation in the session view pays dividends, because you've just got a big bank of ideas, you've prepared them all, you can just put a track together like Lego in next to no time. Let's get the loop in there as well. So that's heads down for, let's say, 16 bars. In fact, for the first 8 of those, let's just have kick and snare, and then let's drop the hat in. The wrong one. Hold on. obviously I should take this opportunity to point out that, you know, everything that I'm showing you here we teach at the school. Over short weekend courses in Ableton Live, right through to, you know, 2 years on stuff like this. So I hope it's not too completely baffling. I'm just trying to give you an overview of all the different steps that are involved. So at this point here, we'll get a nice hi-hat coming in. It'll just move the track forward a little bit. It's often little additions or removals that make all the difference when you're writing music of this ilk, you know. So further to that, let me just add some what I'd call linking sounds, things like crash cymbals, reverse sounds, that sort of stuff. So let me see if I can pick some out from the school's collection of samples. In fact, Vengeance House effects, some reverse sounds there. All a little bit epic so far. Try a nice simple. That'll do. Right, so we'll plonk one of those there just before the drop, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. Add a bit of reverb and delay to that, maybe. So that's leading up to the downbeat, and then on the downbeat, let's have a crash cymbal. Yeah, something nice and phasey like that. And you know what, I'm just going to plonk one of those every 8 bars. Let's just pull that down a bit. Reverb and delay. Obviously, you're not stuck to just using those 2 return tracks or 2 effects tracks that you get given. You can plonk as many of those in there as you want, add your own reverbs, delays. I'm just, you know, again, because of time constraints, just plonking reverb and delay that I've been given on there. Let's add... You know, just every now and again we'll have that little bit of vocal. So I've got something happening, something new happening at least every 8 bars. Even if that's just, you know, a crash cymbal or a little sample, something is happening every 8 bars. Let's add a shorter reverse. Yeah, something like that. Let's add that in the gaps. So let's go there. No, new track. Let's just take it off that. Yeah, some, you know, just like a little punctuation mark. And let's add that where there is where there's gaps in between the crash cymbals, like that. Maybe a little bit of reverb on them. Not delay though, because I want them to be quite short and sharp. Might even pull that back a little bit. Yeah, just hold off on that loop a little bit. Cool, so let's add some more, let's bring that back in, So that's left the piece of music for 16 bars. Let's just bring that in, let's duplicate that whole section. Just do it a couple of times. So we'll slowly start to bring stuff in until the last breakdown, until the first breakdown, rather, I should say. So at this stage, I can't remember the ideas that I've got in this view, but what I can do is, whilst my arrangement's playing, I can just start and stop those over the top just to see what they are. Right, I'm going to get that bit of audio there and plonk it in from that point onwards. When you've got stuff looping, you can just drag stuff out like that indefinitely to fill as much or as little space as you want it to fill. If something isn't looping, like if I turn loop off there, I would have to copy that over. So having loop on is a really handy function when you're arranging. Occasionally, like even if you've spent a little while coming up with an idea, when you come back to it later on like that massive, you might decide to not use it. I'm not particularly precious. If something just isn't working, you might just decide to get rid of it, and it's not quite working for me, that. So let's get the guitar back in there, which is... Let's drop it in from there. So we're 2.5 minutes in. It's probably nearly time for the first breakdown. Just have a listen from this point. What you might do is have elements of what will be the main riff. So I might just drop that in there, but just only play the first little bit of it. Just make sure you drop it in the right track as well. You know, just a little snippet like that, little precursor of what's to come, and you know, just to keep people dangling. Let's just have a filter on that as well. Let's have that every 4 bars. And then we can pick a different section of it to have there. So you've created the full riff and you break that down, you make it into little smaller sections and intersperse that before you drop that main riff, possibly after the first breakdown. Right, one more really important part of arranging that I've not covered yet is automation. So everything is quite flat and stationary at the moment, but what we can do is control parameters over a period of time and get them to move a little bit and breathe a little bit of life in. And whereas, say, a pianist would breathe life into a piece that they're playing using dynamics, how hard or soft they're hitting the keys, maybe, you know, phrasing it so that we'll speed up slightly in a musical phrase and then slow down again. Just to, with electronic music, it's, you know, you can still do that. The tools are slightly different. So automation, in short, is a way of breathing life into your piece. So let's take, for example, this massive. It's quite filtered off. You know, we've not got any of the top end in there at the moment. Let me select that parameter, and I can now control the opening and closing of that filter over the course of the piece of music. You see that's going up and down now. And it just brings it to life just a little bit. Yeah. That's probably where I'd have my first breakdown. And unfortunately, guys, I've run out of time. I'm going to save that. Not that I'll probably ever get time to do anything with that ever again, but I hope you found that relatively informative. Has anyone got any questions about Ableton Live, about remixing, about what the hell just happened?
Very complex in here, but obviously if you've never done it before, it's kind of a lot to take in it.
Oh yeah, totally.
Watching how you're going through the stages bit by bit and different music and different instruments you was introducing and you were building it up well. And it was quite enjoyable.
That's very kind, very kind. Yeah, so what we were just saying was, it's a really, I'm just speaking to the camera now, because they won't be able to hear you. Anyway, it's a really complex subject matter if you've never done it before, and it is a lot to take in. But you just develop a system. If you do it enough, it's like anything, you know, it's like anything. If you do it enough, you just develop systems. Stupid stuff like colouring tracks in and renaming them. Where to actually start, I always cherry pick out samples first, whereas somebody else might get a drum beat going, you know, so you just, if you do it enough, you get a system and you just find it comes. But it is like learning a new language or something. You know, you've got to learn what you're looking at and how to use it before you can be creative.
Yeah.
So there's always a little hump with people that have never done it before. It's like there's a few months of, you know, am I ever going to get this?
Yeah.
But once you get over that, then, you know, and it starts to come, and it's a lot easier to be creative once you know what you're looking at and how to use it. Any other questions, guys? in which case I'm going to sign off on YouTube. So thank you very much for watching at home. I hope you found that informative. If you want to know anything else about the courses that we run here at the school, if you just visit midischool.com, feel free to drop me an email. It's tom@midischool.com. Renette, if you'd like to sign me off, I'll see you soon. Cheers.